Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Andrew Aurora, and I am an artist and mixing and mastering engineer from Nashville, Tennessee, and I help artists and producers bring their creative vision to life through mixing and mastering, as well as teach other people how to mix and master music. And today I'm going to be mixing a song by the artist named Ender Bowen, and the title of the song is called The Storm, off of the record The Art of Tactful Procrastination. And if you would like to listen to any of his music and support him, I'm going to leave a link to all of his socials and where you can listen to his music. And I put out a video like this every single week, so if you would like to keep up to date on my uploads, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that notifications bell so that way you never miss a video. And so a couple weeks ago, I did a song off of this record, and I went into detail on exactly how I mix, how I master, and I explained all that. So I'm not going to waste as much time talking about that here. But in case this is your first video, I like to do top-down mixing. I like to import tracks into a template that's already set up with a mastering chain, all my routing, all my plugins, the way that I like to have it set up. And I do this so that way I can mix music faster. I have everything the way that I usually would want it set up. This saves a lot of time and helps me be more consistent with my mixing and mastering and helps me get a more consistent sound. And so what I've done here is I've imported all the tracks into this session, into my template, and this template was saved from the other song I did, Weight of the World. Because whenever you're mixing and mastering a record, what a good form of practice is to mix and master the first song on the record and then save a template from that first session and then use that template for the rest of the record, because usually a whole album sounds pretty sonically similar. Like every song on the record usually sounds sonically similar, so it helps get a very consistent sound across the record if you use a template that you build off of the first song. And so that's what I'm doing here. This is saved from the last song I did, Weight of the World, which you can go check out on my YouTube channel. And so what I'm going to do is, if you saw that last video, I mix into a mastering chain. This is my mastering chain. I got, just an EQ, a compressor, a multi-band, linear phase compressor here, which I may or may not, remove from my mastering chain, a clipper, a limiter, and then I've got this metric AB plugin, which is going to allow me to compare this song directly to the final release that I did for Ender a while ago. And this is really cool. This will allow us to see if I actually do a better or a worse job than I did way back then, and also allow us to see if we can get at least pretty close to the original song. So I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time talking. What I'm going to do first off is I'm going to play the song for you. So let's make sure this is set to my mix session. So this is going to sound not completely done. I'll be honest. This this particular song doesn't sound like it's all the way or at least close to finished by putting it in my template this time, which a lot of the time I put songs into my template and they sound about 80% done right out the gate, but this one definitely needs a bit of work. But this is also a very different song than a lot of songs that I mix, because it's got a lot of slow, quiet ambience as opposed to a bunch of drums and whatnot that I usually build my foundation off of. But anyway, I'm gonna quit talking right now, and I'm just gonna play the song kind of from the busiest part, not the busiest part, where it starts to pick up, and just let you guys hear the song before I start mixing it.
Five bedrooms and no place to hide. I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie. Thunderclouds loom, and you can't deny. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside.
let's move to where it gets a little bit busier.
The steel is gone. There's no calm before you. You bring the storm with you. Warm inside. You bring the storm inside.
So as you guys can hear, this song is going to need a lot of work, and usually how I start my music is I usually start building off the drums because it's like the foundation of the whole song, and then I start building from there. But this song presents a unique challenge because there's not a lot of drums, and it's not a very like punchy song. It's a very open ambient type song. So, building off the foundations of some nice solid drums is a little bit harder on this song than it is on most songs. So what we're going to do is I'm still going to start with the drums, and we're just going to build off of that. If you didn't see my last video, I like to do what I call speed mixing. I like to mix as fast as I can because this allows me to make quick decisions instead of spending forever, messing with stuff that really doesn't matter, and allows me to just listen, identify, and fix right on the spot, and allows me to get more music mixed, which ultimately allows me to be more productive and allows me to get more experience mixing more songs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of start mixing, and then I'm going to kind of explain what I did and why I did it. So let's just start off with the kick drum because it needs a little bit of work. First thing I'm going to do is see if it's kind of hitting where I want it to on my shells bus. In terms of volume, it's tapping it, which is where I like for it to be at. Let me just check my drum bus where it's going. Let's see if it's even hitting the compressor. It's not, which means it's probably not hitting my limiter either. Nope. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, wait a minute. Let me check something. Okay, so this actually is not even going to my kick bus. I need to change that. I made this change to my template, and I don't think it was saved onto this one. So, and I'm still working on this template. So, it needs a little bit of upgrades, but you can only really refine a template by mixing songs. So that's what we're doing here. All right, let's just start with adding a little bit more top into this because I know it had a little bit more in the final version. And this is kind of a not super, it's not my favorite kick sample that he chose to use. So, but we made it work. Oh, whoops. Now I want to compare this directly to the final version so I can kind of get an idea of how much I did. Okay, so I think I added a little bit more. So what I got here is just a saturator called DF Excite. I'm using that to just boost some high mids, some treble. It's not really an EQ. It just saturates those high end frequencies. It kind of works like an EQ. I like it. Switch this to EDM kick. Alright, that made it sound a little bit better. We're really just going to have to get this in the context of everything else to really know where it sits.
5 bedrooms and no place to hide. I'm tired of half-truths.
Alright, so let's move on to this kick. So what I'm probably going to do here is just duplicate this so I can have the exact same settings, move this up, and see how it sounds. I think that made it a little bit better.
What you know it.
One thing that's bugging me right now is I feel like this rain is just a little bit too loud.
What you know it.
So we're going to bring this down some. And what I have going on here is some Saturn, which is a saturator, which is saturating the sound. I have this saved because I like this on my tracks that are more like strings and pianos and things like that. I love to saturate them, just makes them sound really good. Got some EQ to cut out some lows and some side widener. Which I'm just going to back off the side widener a little bit. I feel like it's a little bit too loud. And we're going to bring down the volume just a little bit.
What you know it. To be found. The spirits run.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, open this up so I make sure that my snare is kind of hitting where I want it to hit. And what we're going to do is EQ this some because it needs it. Actually, let's try my DFX site again.
What you know it. To be found. You tear it down now. What you know it. To be found.
Let's go check this up here.
You bring the storm inside. Thunderclap. It's gonna last the night. You build up. You tear it down. The spirits rumbling.
Okay, cool. So right now I feel like, let me listen to that one more time. Okay, so I did a lot more top end on this snare in the final version. So let's see if we can get a little bit closer to that.
It's here, it's here it down now.
One other thing. Actually, you know what? For now, I'll leave it the way it is. Oh, I wasn't clicking on the right one. My bad. X out. Let's see. All right. Let's duplicate this. I hate when it does that. All right. See how that sounds.
It's gonna last the night. You bring a storm. It's here.
I feel like the kick needs to come up some.
It's here it down now. What you know when you bring the storm inside. What you build up, it's here.
All right, I think that's a good starting point for those drums. Now let's move on over here where the buildup is at. Where we're at over here. Whoops. All right, so I wanted to do a little bit less limiting on that. I didn't want it to hit the limiter as hard. I think the compression is pretty good. Let's come over here. I wanted to check one more time, see how it's hitting our compressor as soon as I solo it. All right, cool.
Thunder clouds loom, and you can't deny.
Okay, so the first thing I want to do, we got a little bit of clip. That's good. First thing I want to do is I want to send this to a little bit of drum reverb. And as far as drum reverb goes, I just got some Pro R over here with the percussion plate. And what I am going to do, though, is I'm going to set this a little bit lower to cut out some low end. I don't want the kick giving me a lot of reverb. And I might want to take a little bit of brightness off the top of this reverb. All right, I think that reverb sounds okay. And then I've got a Pro Q just cutting out some of the low end. And another thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to send this to a drum parallel chain. So what I've got going on here is right now, and this is still a work in progress. This is kind of a new template. I'm still getting it dialed in. All I've got is a compressor right here. I don't have anything else. And this is a new compressor to me, so I'm just trying it out. But I remember that I did parallel compression on this portion of the song when I mixed it the first time, and Ender absolutely loved the drum mix when I got to this point, and he was like, I don't know how you did it, but it sounded great. Well, this is how I did it. In case Ender's watching this, I did parallel compression. Now, I don't remember exactly what settings or what compressor I used. I know it wasn't this one, but this one's really good for compressing drums, or at least so I've heard. Again, this is a new plugin for me, so I'm just going to play with it and see if I can get a pretty good drum parallel sound to get this nice in your face. Because Ender did something on this record where he sent me a lot of like bounce down drums where I had kick, snare, hat, all that in one track. And when he did that, it kind of took away my ability to independently control each piece of the kit. So for me to get it like nice in your face, I had to kind of, come up with, some tricks, and parallel compression was one way that I got his drums in your face, while, dealing with that situation where I've got a bounce down drum mix. But anyway, let's send this to my drum parallel bus real quick. And let's do this. All right. Oh, another thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch this to pre-fader, so that way I can actually bring down the main channel, and I can just listen to the drum parallel. right, cool. So that just gave it a little bit more in your face. What I did here on the drum parallel bus is I brought down the attack so that way we could get the punch of the drums coming through, but I extended, or excuse me, this knob makes the release long if it's cranked up to 7, and so I brought the release back a little bit just so it's a little bit slower, or let me remember, because 7 is the fastest one. I wanted it to hold a little bit longer. So yeah, I wanted to make it a little bit slower by bringing this knob down just a little bit. And I'm just kind of playing around, seeing where I like it. And I also had to crank the volume up so I could hit the compressor a little bit harder. All right, I think I'm liking the 8-to-1 ratio. That sounds good to me. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of Pro Q3 because we don't want to bring up all that low end when we compress it. Actually, hold on a minute. Before I do the Pro Q3, what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of DF Excite. And we're going to switch it to the vintage mode because that's a more natural and organic sound. I don't want the really aggressive sound. I want the more natural sound of the vintage. Cool, I think that just gave it a little bit more life, and now I hear a frequency in here I don't like, so let's get rid of that. So right now we're just going to try this drum parallel, kind of see where we're at, and we're going to blend this in with the original. One other thing I want to do with this is I want to take this drum parallel, and I also want to send this to the reverb. Let's see, drum verb, where are you? Right here you are. Okay, cool. So to me, that just put the drums a bit more in your face in this section. So let's see how this sounds now with the drum parallel and the drum reverb. And let's compare it to the original, which I think it's about right here. Cool, so that's not bad. Let's bring down, let's bring down the, where are we hitting on this right now? Let's go check my mastering chain and see where we're hitting in terms of volume. Okay, right now that's pretty good. Let's just give this one more quick listen, and then we're going to move on to everything else, because I don't want to take too long on the drums. Okay, so to me, by just adjusting that knob just a little bit, I was able to tame the attack on the snare, just keep it a little bit more in control. And so now let's move on to the tambourine down here. And let's check the original song real quick. Alright, cool. So let's just see what the tambourine sounds like on its own. That's super subtle, but I think it adds just a little bit of space. Not really necessary, to be honest. I could even probably not put the drum reverb on there and it'd be fine. But this is a setting I have saved from my last mix, and honestly, it worked in the last song. I think it works here. That EQ band isn't really needed for this, so let's just, let's see. Let me see how it sounds in context with everything else. I think it's fine for now. Let's get everything else rolling in the mix, and then we will, if we need to come back to this and turn it up, we can. So let's move on to the bass.
You bring the storm inside.
So that limiter is really not doing anything. It's just saved on my template in case I need it. So we're doing everything here on the bass bus. And all I've got here is a Pro Q, just cutting out some lows. And got some max bass, adding in some low end harmonics. And then a Pro L limiting the bass just a little bit. Just going to pull that back just a little bit to let the low end of the bass breathe a little bit more. That adds a little bit of bass harmonics. Not really, you know, this is something I use sometimes. I don't keep it on all the time. I do have it on my chain, but sometimes I turn it off, sometimes I leave it on. It just kind of depends. Right now, I think it's just filling up the bass a little bit more. So we're going to leave it on. It's not really hurting anything. Let's see. Now, as you can see, this bass is actually pretty dynamic. So what I am going to do with this bass is I'm going to compress it just a little bit, just to keep it under control, keep it a little bit more consistent. Sorry, I keep hitting the wrong button, which is resetting the Pro L all the way back to 0. And all I'm doing here right now is I'm just trying to level out the bass a little bit, make it a little bit more consistent, make that low end a little more consistent. And I'll be able to check the low end a little bit better when I test this song in my car, because I don't have the most ideal mixing situation, so sometimes it's hard for me to hear low end accurately, and I can really tell the difference when I go check in the car. That's when I can really tell, you know, where my low end sits. So right now I think it sounds pretty good. Let me just compare it in volume directly next to the drums. I think it sounds okay. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to move on to the guitars. So first things first, I think these are the two main guitars. So let's pull them up here. Let's see if they need any panning. Okay, not the most ideal guitar sound ever. Now, I have a chain, again, saved from the last session. So let's take a look at this, see if it needs any adjusting. First off, I know that the highs need to be brought down a little bit because when I mixed this song before, I think the first time I did it before we did any revisions, I put too much highs in it because his guitar sounded a little bit dark. And if I remember right, I think he wanted me to bring some of those down, and so I did. And it just sounded a little bit better. This is a darker song. It doesn't need those bright guitars. So let's just bring some of that high end down a little bit. And so what I've got going on here is I just got an EQ cutting out some stuff. Again, nothing I particularly need. Got a little bit of a boost here on the top end, and that's pretty much it. And then a little bit of a boost here around 100 hertz. And then I've got just a little EQ cut from the last song here. I actually think that cut makes it sound better, so we're going to leave it. Now these aren't really quite accurate and even in volume, and they need to be, so I think part of that is because this one's a little bit more dull than the other one. So we're going to bring that back just a little bit. It may actually, this one may need the extra boost, so let's check these EQ moves real quick. I don't need that. This does not need that. That was from the last song. Uh-oh, we got the spinning wheel of death here. Hopefully my session does not crash. So all I'm really doing here is I am leveling out the guitars, trying to get them even. I pan them both about left 70, right 70, just because I think hard panning kind of takes away the body of them a little bit. I just like panning them a little bit less than hard left and hard right. And just getting them dialed in. All right, let's save this in case this crashes. I don't want to lose that. So let's see if they're about even level now. We can try that. They're getting pretty close. And all I've really got on these besides the EQ is I've got a timeless delay. Let's see if this even needs that. I think that works on those guitars. So let's just solo them next to the bass and solo them next to the bass and the drums real quick. Now I have these also going to this rhythm guitar bus. Alright, cool. Just trying to get those guitars a good level in relation to the drums and the bass and the vocals real quick. If you didn't watch my last video, I pretty much explained how I like to kind of solo things next to each other and see where they sit in context next to each other, because that helps me personally as a mixer kind of figure out where everything's sitting in relation to each other. Instead of trying to listen to 20 or 30 instruments all at once, I get the opportunity to kind of see where everything sits in relation to one another. So sometimes I'll solo the guitars and the vocals just to see how loud are the vocals compared to the guitars. Are they getting in the way of the vocals? Sometimes I'll solo the guitars next to the drums to see how, are the drums coming through clear with the guitars playing, because this really helps me figure out, is there maybe a masking frequency in a specific spot? Like maybe the rhythm guitars have a frequency that's really making it hard to hear the kick the right way, and when I solo the rhythm next to the drums, I can figure that out. And then I like to listen to everything together and just see if it's setting good together. This is just easier for me. I don't recommend mixing in just solo. A lot of people do that, but it's good if you really need to pinpoint something and hear something clearly, but solo can be your biggest enemy. So that's how I personally like to mix, and I usually like to focus on the instruments more than the vocals as I'm mixing, because that's the foundation for the vocals, and kind of focus on the vocals last. So right now I'm just trying to get the volumes of all the instruments kind of dialed in, and let's go check now. Let's see where we're at in relation to the original song. I feel like the snare could come down just a little bit. Now there's a few different ways I could have brought the snare down. Personally, I like to control my volumes with limiters. I prefer that to using the fader, because if I ever need to do automation and I have to make a big automation change, if I have my fader down around here, then a slight change in automation will jump the volume by 4, 5, 6, 7 dB, because the increments are smaller here. Or, well, I guess the number increments are bigger, but the space is like smaller. So a smaller move will move a larger amount when the fader's down here. But if it's up here and I make the same size adjustment of automation, it'll only move it by maybe 1 or 2 dB. So I just like to keep my faders at unity. It's just something that I prefer doing. Not everybody feels that way, but it's easier for me. Another way that I could have controlled the volume on the snare if I wanted to is I could have come to my drum bus, and maybe I could have tried maybe quickening the attack on the limiter. Could could have tried a couple different things, but I just chose to bring it down with a limiter plugin. So let's move on to the next guitar. Let's try this one. I think this is the intro guitar. So in my last video, I mentioned that Ender basically recorded everything in stereo, even if it was a mono track. So I have to zoom in sometimes and see if these match on both sides to find out if they're actually stereo or mono. And this one is actually stereo because they're not the same on both sides. So what I want to do is I want to pan this center. That was saved from the last song, and give it another listen. Now, to me, what this needs right now, I brought it down in volume because I heard in the original that the kick was quite a bit louder than this was. So I wanted to bring it down some. Let's check my EQ. I just got a standard boost here. I usually like this boost on guitars, so let's see how it sounds with and without it. Just resetting that low end boost that I like on a lot of my guitars. I really don't think it needs much of any EQ right now, but what it might need, honestly, I like the dynamic. So what I want to do here, and I did this a lot in his original record. Let me try something. I want to see if this sounds good or not. This might sound good. This might not sound good. I've got a doubler set up in my effects up here, and I use this to get a little extra width on stuff. So we're going to see if we can get a little bit more width on his guitar to see if it sounds good or not. I like it. It's okay, you know. I don't think it really needs it, but I'll just turn it off. One thing I do know I want here, though, is I want, first off, there's one frequency bugging me right now. This frequency. To hide and dreams. All right, so I think that sounds okay. It really doesn't need that much. Ender gave me some pretty good sounds, and what I did here was I just brought down the volume a little bit, took out one little frequency that I didn't like, and I added a little bit of timeless just to give it a little bit of delay. Not a whole lot done here. And then let's check this guitar next. Let's check the original mix. I'm going to leave it panned to the left. I think it sounds good. Just adds a cool sound. Really, there's no right or wrong way to pan this. I could even leave it center, but I just think it sounds good when it's panned to the left. So we're going to leave it like that. And, oh, hold on. All I'm doing there is adding a little bit of delay, again, just to give it some space. And I do this little trick where I slightly shift one a little bit off from the other, and that just gives it a little bit more width. All you have to do is move it just a little bit, and then I increase the feedback so that way the delay actually rings out a little bit longer. And again, we just have my standard EQ boost here. Same with the EQ. It's not doing a whole lot. Let's see. Let's move on to the next guitar. Now I know that this was panned left, definitely. Let's check the original. Let's see where the volume was at on that. I think that's a pretty good volume. Let's see here. Again, just a little bit of a boost. I actually think that much sounds pretty good. And if you're looking at this and being like, well, he's just leaving stuff a lot of the time. Like, why is he just leaving stuff? Why isn't he doing something the same? Or, excuse me, why isn't he doing, something unique to each individual piece? And I'm like, well, there's two reasons why I do it the way I do it. One is because after mixing enough songs, I know what I 95% of the time like and what sounds good to me 95% of the time. I almost always like the sound of boosting around this point on guitars. It's not something I do because it's a rule and I just do it. It's something that I do because I have done it so many times and I like the way it sounds that I have it saved onto my template. But if I listen to this and I think to myself, wow, that just sounds terrible on this track, it doesn't need it, then I'll take it off. I'll switch it, I'll remove it, but I have it saved there because 90% of the time I'm going to reach for this plugin and probably do a boost around there because I tend to like it. But that doesn't mean it's going to work for every single guitar. I just wanted to make that clear because, maybe you're seeing me and you're like, wow, he's really not doing that much. And I'm not. I'm really not having to do a whole lot because Ender sent me some good sounding stuff. And I really don't need to do a lot to some of these tracks. And I have everything set up in a way that I just generally like to process my guitars. So, from here, this definitely needs a delay plugin, like 100%. And I think it might be... Okay, no, it's not slamming the limiter. Actually, I think I just put that on there. I don't think that was saved on there. So let's do timeless. This really needs some delay, like really bad. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to have it be more of a mono delay here instead of making it stereo, because if I shift it slightly off and it's on a stereo track, it'll make it like a stereo delay. But this one I want to be a little bit more mono, or at least I'm going to try it that way first. And this needs a longer delay. And let's open up the highs a little bit on here. It needs the half note.
You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside.
And something else I like to try after this is just a little bit of Pro C, just a little bit of compression to bring the body closer to the delay. I don't know if you guys could tell, but it's actually a little bit louder now. You can hear the echoes just a little bit better. So I like to do that a lot of the time, add a delay and then add a little bit of a compressor or a little bit of compression afterwards to bring the body closer to the delay that is delaying out. So that way you can hear it a little bit better.
Storm inside. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside. It's gonna last. Yep.
This can use a lot less high end. Just doing a little bit of balancing. I did the exact same trick here. I did a little bit of compression after the delay just to get the delay a little bit closer. And then I was just using this to control some volumes. So now let's move on to the next guitar here. What do we got? Is this actual stereo or is it mono? It's mono. Now I've got a mono to stereo plug-in on here from the last song, and I think it's going to need it because this guitar to me sounds like it needs width. Alright, cool. So what I was doing there was I was just kind of getting this dialed in, and after listening to the original, I believe that these guitars probably need to come down just a little bit. Alright, let's go check this guitar. Cool, so all I did there was just tame some of that high-end stuff that was bothering me. Opened up a little bit of the highs on the delay so that way you could hear it a little bit better. And I just left that there because, again, I like it. I like how it sounds. It's not really hurting. I don't think it really needs any additional high-end beyond that, but I like that little bump. I don't think that low end bump is really hurting it any, so let's just see how that sounds. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do here I feel like this needs a little bit of compression, so we're going to do that. And from here, we are going to add, this time I don't want that decay to be brought out on the delay, so I'm just going to do a little bit of compression just to bring those those chugs a little bit closer together. So what I'm doing here is I'm just checking it in relation to the volume of the bass and the drums real quick. I think that sounds pretty good in terms of getting the levels right. So let's go from here and move on to this piece. That doesn't need delay because it's already got delay on the track. Honestly, I don't feel like this really needs much of anything, except maybe, I mean, if I wanted to give it some reverb, I could, but I don't really feel like it needs it right now. So if I feel like it needs it later, I'll add it, but for now, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. I do feel like it needs to come down in volume a little bit, though.
The steel is gone to tear down the sun. You bring the storm.
What I'm doing here is I'm trying to see how the levels fit with the rest of the rhythm guitars. So let's just Oh, these aren't all rhythm guitars, but you know what I mean. All the guitars labeled rhythm. Cool. So let's go check our mastering chain. Let's see where we're hitting right now. So right now, all we've got going on is we're tapping this. I just checked this button, this no small time button. It's a really cool mastering button, just seeing if it was making it sound any better. And let's check the Lin MB. That might be taming some of the high end just a little bit, so I'm gonna leave it. I like it, and let's give this a listen next to the original. Right now they are sounding pretty close, and I haven't even gotten the lead guitars or the effects dialed in, so let's move on to that. Let's start with the leads. I'm going to start with these two. My brain likes to look at them like this. Since they come first, I like them up top. Let's match the volumes real quick. I feel like the bass is a little bit too loud, so let's just bring this down just a little bit. All right, now let's move on to, let's see how the rain's sounding. Sounds pretty good in the intro.
I'm waiting for you.
Oh wait, I forgot to do these other lead guitars. Hold on. I thought that might need a boost. Let's see here. Probably not. I think that was more of a creative decision on Ender's part, the way he did the volumes there. He may have wanted them like that, so I'm going to kind of leave them like that for now. Let's see. Just dulling that ever so slightly so it's not as painful. And all I really have here, again, is just some EQs to cut out frequencies I know I'm not going to want in guitars just to save my time. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention earlier, on my rhythm guitars, I've also got a little bit of a clipper. This just helps put guitars in your face. And I have them going to here where they get limited just a little bit. And it helps just keep control of my volume. So let's see, let's make sure these aren't like slamming the limiter real quick. And then I have an EQ that cuts out all the low end that I'm not going to want in the guitars. And by having that EQ on all the individual, on the guitar bus, I don't really have to worry about doing a bunch of low end EQ on every individual track. It just speeds up the mixing process. Now let's move on to the extras now that I double checked that. And one thing I'm actually wanting to do, I keep hearing it, I want this snare to have a little bit more reverb. I just do. It just needs a little bit of ambience. So let's try the drum verb and see if that sounds good. If it doesn't, I'll give the snare its own reverb. Actually, what I think I'm hearing is I had a little bit more reverb on the on here actually. Let me go check this one more time next to the original real quick. doing there was just changing the attack on the limiter to see if I could tame the compressor just a little bit. I think right now we are good. Let's move on to the everything that I have labeled as extras. Alright, so I know that this, because it's Thunder, doesn't need the side widener. It doesn't need, it's going to need some low end brought back into it. I had way too much low end cut out of there. Saturn gives it life. I like that. I do want to give this a little bit of top end. Not much, just a little bit, just so it's heard. Nice and heard. I think the rain sounds good the way it is. We already tweaked that earlier. And let's do, what is this, Coral Reef? Again, same thing. I have a widener, I have some Saturn. Now, one thing, it's... Okay, cool. No, it's actually fine the way it is. Oh, and I have all of these going to an extras reverb here, which just has my favorite reverb for, like, synths and whatnot on here. It is the... Whoops. It's a huge synth space preset with some slight adjustments in the Pro R plugin, Pro R reverb. And I've always loved that on synths. It's literally my go-to. It's what I used on this record. So I have just a little bit of that. I have it sending to that just a little bit here. That just gives a little bit of extra ambience.
Storm inside. You bring the storm inside. Storm inside. You bring the storm inside. It's go. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside. It's gonna last the night.
We're just doing one thing at a time here real quick. Just wanted to bring that a little bit closer together in terms of dynamics. I wanted to give a little bit slower attack so that way it just didn't get squashed right as it was coming in, but a little bit faster release so that way it could kind of, you know, not just be squashed the whole time. I didn't want it to be held down. I just wanted it to kind of just bring the transients a little bit closer to the body. I didn't want to do a whole lot here. And then just to make up for that slight volume boost, we're just going to drop this.
It's gonna last the night. The night. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside. It's gonna last the night.
I felt like that was a little bit too loud, so I wanted to bring it down some. Now let's move on to the strings. Okay, cool. Got that where I want it.
Bring the storm. It's gonna last the night. You bring.
So what I was doing there again was just, getting a little bit of Saturn, a little bit of saturation. I love saturation on my synths. Warm Tube seems to currently be my favorite on synths right now, and one of my favorites in this plugin. I love FabFilter Saturn. And again, the same thing. I do this a lot with my synths. I like how it sounds. The Saturn, the Pro Q to cut the low end out that gets generated from the saturation, and then a side widener just to give width. I love adding width to these kinds of elements. When you saturate, you're going to bring up a lot of low end, and I don't want any of that low end mess getting in the way of my kick, my bass, or just, giving me a bunch of unnecessary frequency energy that I just don't need when I start mastering. So that's why I have the Pro Q set up after the Saturn on all of these, and then the side widener after, and then the limiter just to control volumes. Let's see. And the last thing. Just trying a little bit more reverb on that, and I think right now we are pretty good to start hitting the vocals. Let's see.
The steel is gone. There's no calm before you. You bring the storm with you. You bring the storm with you.
there's definitely a couple tweaks I'm going to need to do, but let's just jump right into the vocals and get them taken care of. So what I do with my vocals is I come in here. I have a vocal chain that I like to use. This is kind of a new chain I'm experimenting with to see if I like it. We've got some 76 mono blackface going here. This is to help tame some of the transients of the vocal. Then we've got some Pro Q3, which just has some saved EQ changes on it, which this probably isn't going to stay a part of my template. These three right here, I don't really feel like they're necessary. In fact, let's just do one. Let's just do one because I like a little bump down there in that region. This was from the last session, and then we've got a little bit of boost here at around 10K on the vocals. We got some Pro C, another compressor with some slow attack, fast release, again, just to tame the transients a little bit. Then we got some RVox mono down here for some more compression, just layering levels of compression, and then two de-essers, pretty much to the exact same setting, except one, the second de-esser compresses a little bit less than the first one. And the reason for this is I have found that two de-essers sound a little bit better than having one do all the hard work because it can cause a really bad lisp in the vocalist. And so what I have here is two de-essers to layer the de-essing, making them sound more natural to me. And I've got a duplicate of this exact same channel down here, which to me, I found the best way to get vocals in your face is literally to duplicate the main vocal with the exact same settings. And I have this set up in such a way where if I make a change on one track, it'll be changed to the other. So let's just see kind of where we're hitting our chain, our vocal chain right now.
To tear down the sun.
We're hitting it a little hard.
I'm with you. You bring the storm with you. You bring the storm with you. You bring the storm with you. You bring the storm. Our dreams begins. Nest our dreams begins. Nest our dreams begins. Nest the cold wind of dreams begins. Nest
Now, right now, I really like that. I think that the vocal is sitting nice in your face. Let's unsolo it.
our dreams begin. Nest
Okay, so right now we've got this sending to some effects, and it's going to need some changes on the effects. So let's do the first one. Let's send to this reverb. We're going to need a little bit more reverb, I think. Let's see. We've got it. Yeah, we got it sending on the lead vocal bus.
tear down the sun.
I'm going to want a bigger reverb on this one, on this song, because it's very ambient.
Tear down the sun. 5 bedrooms and no place to hide. I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie. I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie. I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie. I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie.
All right, so I wanted a bit darker reverb for this one. That's why I'm adjusting the brightness up here, and I wanted it a little bigger, so that's why I increased the space. And now we are going to send this to we already got it going to the delay, but the delay needs to be set a little bit different. So we are going to adjust this to, let's see if quarter notes work.
I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie. I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie.
All right, so this definitely sounds better on the half note delay. We're going to increase the feedback.
I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie. Thunder clouds loom, and you can't deny.
And we're going to do the exact same trick I did before. We're going to add a little bit of Pro C to this delay. I just want to hear them a little bit better.
I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie. I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie.
And another thing we're going to do here, I don't always do this. I didn't do this on the last song, but we're going to send this to the stereo reverb.
I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie.
I want the delay to sound like it's in that exact same space. And I really like this reverb. This is kind of a standard reverb I have set up for my vocals. If I need to change it, I will, but I think it sounds pretty good for this one. So now that we've added some effects, let's just kind of see where we're at.
I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie.
First thing, I think this needs another de-esser. Just a little bit of de-essing.
I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie. Thunder clouds loom, and you can't deny. Tear it down now. But you know where. Tear it down.
Now I want to see where I'm hitting my limiter real quick on my vocals.
Storm with you to the roof. You bring the storm with you.
We're going to need a little bit less delay, so we're going to bring the volume of this delay down some, about -5.
To the roof. You bring the storm with you. To the roof. You bring the storm with you.
And we're going to darken this delay a little bit by taking out some of the highs.
To the roof.
I'm going to lighten this compression.
You bring the storm with you. In the cold wind, where the rattle of dreams begins. Nest
I wanted this delay to be just right, dark enough. Let's give it a shot.
You bring the storm with you. In the cold wind,
that's just a couple EQ notches I had from the last one. Let's see how I like them.
There's a roof.
Well, he's singing really like dull and kind of like low in the earlier parts, so I need to go to the harsh parts to see if this is harsh or not.
Where the rattle of trees, where the rattle of trees begins.
I think both of those are perfectly fine. And we've got this delay or this EQ in here that has some dynamic EQ.
Where the rattle of trees begin. Where the rattle of trees begins. Nest the cold wind.
I don't know if it really needs that or not, but it's pretty well under control, so I'm just going to leave it for now. And let's just go through the song. Let's see where we're at.
Where the rattle of trees begin. Nest the cold wind. You bring the storm inside. It's gonna last the night. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside. Storm inside. It's gonna bring the storm inside. Storm inside. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm. It's gonna last. You bring the storm inside.
Cool, so they definitely sound a little bit different. They're not identical. There are a few changes I need to make, but we are getting pretty close. So the first thing I realized is that I feel like the drums are a little bit better in the original version. So let's see if we can't dial in the drums a little bit better. I was making sure that that compressor wasn't maybe affecting my low end, because it could be. now I'm just kind of going through, refining this, checking this thing out, seeing if we can get it a little bit more dialed in. And from here, I would normally take an ear break, come back and give it a listen. But let's go through. Let me stretch. Let's go through from beginning to end and see if we can do a little bit of automation and refine a couple things. So,
waiting for you, but I don't want to. I'm waiting for you, but I don't want to tear down the sun. Five bedrooms and no to tear down the sun. Have truths with no space to lie. Thunder clouds loom, and you can't deny. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside. It's gonna last the night. You bring the storm inside. What you build, you build around what you know, what you know will come. Spirits rumbling like it should do. But there is nothing that shines through. The still is gone. There's no calm before you. You bring the storm with you. You bring the storm. You bring the storm with you. Under the roof. Under the roof.
it's not doing a very good job of volume matching these, so that can kind of trick my ear.
Wait,
How about we do this?
for you, but I don't want to. Waiting for you to tear down the bedrooms and no place to hide. I'm tired of half-truths with no space to lie. Thunderclouds loom and you can deny. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside. Last the night. You bring the storm inside. What you build up, you tear it down now. What you wait to get home. Spirits rumbling like it should do. But there is nothing that shines through. There's no comfort for you. You bring the storm with you. You bring the storm with you.
Okay, so it's kind of a hard pick at this point. Both versions of the song are good. I heard little discrepancies, little differences between the two, but I think both of them came out pretty good. It's hard really at this point to decide which one is better. I think the final version's probably a little bit better. But mind you, the final version has also been had multiple revisions. I've gone and I've checked it, multiple times. At this point, if I was actually mixing this song, I'm going to turn it into an artist, then what I would do is I would go take an ear break, give myself 20 or 30 minutes, come back, check this thing again, or maybe just not mix this song for the rest of the day and come back to it tomorrow and come back with a fresh set of ears, give it another listen, mess with it some, or I would even send it. Well, actually, after I give myself an ear break, revisit it, check it again, I would send it to the artist, and I would then get probably some form of revisions, because most of the time, even if you have a really good mix, the artist usually does have a couple little revisions here and there. And then at that point, I would know, okay, does he want more or less of something, or does he like it the way it is? At this point, it's not really a matter of which one's better or worse. It's more of refining this one to please the artist, because I could send this one to Ender, for example, if this was my first time mixing it to him, or mixing it for him, and he could tell me he liked it better than the original, or he could tell me that he doesn't, and at that point I'd make the changes. Well, correction. I said if I was mixing this for him the first time. If I was mixing this for him the first time, I could send it to him and he could tell me basically if he liked it or not, or if he wanted some kind of changes done to it. I do know one thing I definitely could tell was an issue was the snare was a little too loud right here. So let's go give that a listen. Let's see if I can dial that in a little bit. Make sure I'm listening to the original. Yep. Or not the original, but my version right now. So what I would actually do to this, now that I'm hearing it back, is I would actually add a little bit of a limiter to this, just to bring that snare down a little bit more. Not that limiter. Let's try Pro L. Actually, we're going to try something completely different. We're going to do this. Wait, before I do this, one more thing I want to check. So at this point, let's do wrong channel. Let's come up here. Let's do something different. Let's do some Pro MB. we go. That tamed the snare a little bit. I went and I found the attack of the snare, brought it down some, did a little bit of EQ, carved out some of that like mid-range stuff that I heard. So at this point, the song is pretty close to finished. I mean, it's not bad. I think that is a pretty good speed run of a mix. It would have been faster, if I wasn't talking and whatnot and constantly checking back to the original, but I just wanted to do a comparison and see how close we could actually get to the original mix. And I think what we actually have here are two slightly different mixes where it's kind of subjective which one you might like the best. And I could go up here and tweak my mastering chain a little bit, mess with this a little bit more, but I think we are nearing about the time for this video to come to an end. So, let me, before I complete this video and bring it to a complete end, I mean, like I said, I would come through here, do a little bit of automation. That'll take, a little bit of time to get dialed in. I'll have to listen to the whole song. And again, if I was really going to do some automation, I would come back through here with a fresh set of ears and, do a little bit of automation. But I think we're pretty close to done. I mean, for for this song. So, at this point, let me check the mastering chain real quick. All right, I do want to come through here and do a little automation. I know I said I probably wouldn't, but I feel like this isn't really going to be complete without me doing some automation. So let's just go through and do a little bit of automation. I know that the bass here probably needs to come down a little bit in this part.
5 bedrooms and no place to hide. I'm tired of half-truths with no lie. Thunder clouds loom and you can't deny. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside. It's gonna last the night. You bring the storm inside. What you build up, you tear it down now. What you know when to tear it down now. What you know, what you build up. The steel is gone. There's no calm. The steel is gone. There's no calm before you. You bring the storm with you. You bring the storm with you. It crawls under the roof. You bring the storm with you. In the cold wind, where the rattle of trees begins. There's the cold wind. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside. It's gonna last the night. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside. You bring the storm inside. It's gonna last the night. The storm
All right, cool. Well, that is pretty much the song. I think it sounds pretty slamming. Like I said before, at this point, I would go take an ear break, let myself come back to it, give it another listen, see if I could dial in a little bit more automation, And then I would send it back to the artist and get some revisions, kind of see how he feels about it, see if he likes it, see if, maybe he wants to make some changes. And then we go from there. I mean, I think it sounds pretty slamming. I think it's, again, slightly different than the original, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it may be that, this mix by some people is considered better than the first one. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned something from it. Let me know how to improve these videos. This is my first time ever really mixing and showing people how to mix and recording it. So I know I might be a little awkward or, whatever. I'm just trying to kind of, figure out how to do this thing and teach people how to do it. I just want to, show people how to do it because, 10, 15-minute videos aren't necessarily enough time to teach someone how to actually mix a song from front to back. So I'm actually showing you guys the real thing, the raw deal, what it actually looks like to mix a song from front to back. And, also I think it's important to teach people how to mix fast. Now, I know you guys might be thinking, oh, well, you didn't mix that fast. Well, I was trying to mix about as quick as I could while teaching and explaining things and just kind of taking my time. If I was actually mixing this song where, I wasn't really worried about trying to teach people, I probably could have got this done, 30 or 40 minutes quicker, if not quicker than that. And, I just want to teach people how to mix and mix quickly. So, yeah, if you are an artist or a producer who is looking to get your music mixed or mastered, again, hit me up at andrewaroraproductions.com and fill out an application, and we can work together, and maybe I can, put your song up on my YouTube channel and show people, including yourself, how to mix your own song. And also, if you guys enjoyed this song and want to hear more from Ender Bowen, again, be sure to hit up, his socials and go check out the streaming platforms with his music on it and go listen to his music because this record was really good and a lot of fun. Also, if you guys are looking for a mixing and mastering engineer, I have a free resource that'll help you guys navigate how to find the right one for you. There's a lot of options out there, and even though I'd love to mix all the music in the world, I'm not necessarily the right fit for everybody, and neither is another mixing or mastering engineer. So if you're trying to figure out who is the right person to help you bring your creative vision to life and you're not really sure what things to look out for, I created a free resource called My 12 Tips to Finding the Right Mixing and Mastering Engineer. You guys can pick that up in the description below. And yeah, and also I have a kit in the description of this video that has a link to a lot of products that I like to use for mixing and mastering. The speakers I use, the monitor I use, and some other stuff I use that are important and integral to my mixing and mastering setup. So if you guys want to go check that out, be sure to check that out also in the link in the description. And be sure to like this video, helps me out a lot, and leave a comment letting me know what I can do to make my videos better, or what, any questions you might have. Feel free to reach out on socials if there's any questions you might have, and I'd be happy to answer them. And again, hit subscribe and hit the notifications bell if you want to never miss a video. I'm going to be putting out a video like this as soon as the holidays are over. I'm going to be putting out videos roughly every week. That's the goal. So probably every Thursday, every single week. So I will see you guys shortly after the holidays. See you soon. Peace.